In the heart of forgotten countryside stood a grand, aging mansion known as Elder Glen House. Time had not been kind to it. Ivy crawled over its crumbling walls. Windows were shattered like broken promises, and the front gate screeched like wounded souls whenever the wind blew. The mansion had been abandoned for over 60 years, ever since the wealthy Ashford family mysteriously vanished without a trace. The townsfolk whispered about curses, dark rituals, and a room that no one dared to enter. They called it the Forgotten Room. One cloudy afternoon, a young history student named Clara Bennett arrived in Elder Glen. She had always been fascinated by unsolved mysteries and hidden histories. When she heard about the mansion, she knew she had to investigate it for her university thesis titled Echoes of the Vanished: Historical Disappearances in the Modern World. Clara was brave, curious, and perhaps a little reckless. With a flashlight in one hand and her camera in the other, she stepped through the rotting front door. The air inside was thick with dust, and the wooden floor groaned under her boots. She explored room after room, drawing rooms, libraries, dining halls, all filled with antique furniture draped in white sheets. But nothing felt out of the ordinary until she reached the third floor. At the end of a narrow corridor, she saw a door unlike the others. It was smaller, almost hidden behind a tapestry, and sealed with rusted chains. Carved into the wood were strange symbols that pulsed with an eerie glow when she touched them. Clara's heart raced. This must be it, the Forgotten Room. She used a small hammer to break the brittle chains and slowly pushed the door open. A cold wind rushed past her as if the room had been holding its breath for decades. Inside, the walls were lined with mirrors, old, clouded, but intact. In the center stood a crib, long abandoned, and a music box that began to play on its own. Suddenly, the door slammed shut behind her. Clara spun around, gripping her flashlight tightly. The mirrors shimmered, and then they changed. They no longer showed her reflection, but instead scenes from the past. She saw the Ashford family, a mother rocking a baby, a father reading, 2 children laughing. Then darkness, screams, shadows dragging the family into the mirrors, one by one, until only silence remained. The music box played louder, faster, distorted. Clara tried to leave, but the door wouldn't budge. Panic set in. The mirrors whispered in many voices, some pleading, others mocking. You shouldn't have come here. The room remembers. Free us or join us. Clara remembered an old journal she had read in the town's archive, written by the family's housemaid. It mentioned a ritual to free trapped souls, breaking all the mirrors while chanting a specific phrase. Clara didn't have the phrase, but she had her voice and a fierce determination. With all her strength, she smashed the mirrors one by one, shouting the words that came to her instinctively. Return to the light. Leave this cursed night. With each broken mirror, a scream filled the room, then vanished. The final mirror shattered, and the room fell silent. The door creaked open, sunlight spilling in like a flood of hope. Clara stumbled out, breathless, trembling but alive. The mansion behind her groaned once more, then began to collapse as if its purpose had been fulfilled. The curse was broken. The Forgotten Room would be forgotten no longer. Clara returned to the town with her story. Many didn't believe her, but the mansion's ruins and the footage on her camera told their own tale. Her thesis became a bestseller. But at night, sometimes Clara still hears the faint sound of a music box playing. For weeks after her escape, Clara Bennett couldn't sleep. Every time she closed her eyes, she saw the mirrors, the ghostly faces, and heard the haunting lullaby of the music box. She told herself it was just trauma, that the curse was broken and the spirits were free. But then, something strange happened. She received a package in the mail. No return address. Inside was a small shard of mirror glass, the same kind from the Forgotten Room, wrapped in parchment. It had a note written in elegant handwriting. You broke the mirrors, but not the bond. Her blood ran cold. Clara tried to ignore it. She threw the shard away, burned the note, and focused on her work. Her story had gone viral, and she was invited to speak at universities and paranormal conferences across the country. But everywhere she went, strange things followed. Mirrors in hotel rooms cracked without cause. Children pointed at empty corners and whispered, "She's here." One night, while staying in Old Victorian and in Maine. Clara saw herself in the mirror, but her reflection didn't move when she did. It smiled slowly, then whispered, "You open the door, Clara. Now we're all free." That's when she realized the ritual didn't destroy the spirits. It only released them. Back in the town near Elder Glen House, unexplained events started to rise. People disappeared. Some swore they saw ghostly figures walking the forest near the mansion ruins. The local church bell rang at midnight, though it had no bell inside. Clara couldn't take it anymore. She had to go back. With a small team of paranormal researchers, including a psychic named Evelyn and a tech expert named Jonas, Clara returned to where the mansion once stood. To their shock, Elder Glen House was standing again, just as it was the day Clara first found it. No ruins. No collapse. "Oh, real. This shouldn't be possible," whispered Jonas. "It's not," Evelyn replied. "It's a memory rebuilt by something that doesn't want to be forgotten." They entered the house. Everything was as Clara remembered, dusty but untouched by time. They moved carefully, tracking EMF signals and EVP recordings. The psychic kept chanting protection prayers under her breath. When they reached the spot where the forgotten room once was, there was no door, just a solid wall. But the wall was breathing. With every breath, it pulsed and shimmered, and then it cracked open like a mouth. Behind it, the room waited. But it had changed. Now it was filled with dozens of floating mirror shards, each showing a soul trapped inside, screaming silently. The music box played again. This time, it wasn't just a haunting melody. It was a message. One must take the place of the many. The spirit spoke through Evelyn. Her eyes rolled back. Her voice changed. A sacrifice must be made, or the curse will spread. Clara realized the truth. Breaking the mirrors released the souls into the world. But the room itself remained a living, cursed entity. And to truly end it, someone had to willingly bind themselves to the room, to become its guardian, its prisoner. "I started this," Clara whispered. "Maybe I have to finish it." She stepped into the center of the room. Evelyn screamed for her to stop. Jonas begged her not to, but Clara knew there was no other way. As she stood under the hovering shards, they began to swirl around her like a tornado of broken glass and sorrow. She closed her eyes and whispered, "Let me be the last." With a final flash of light, the room imploded, vanishing into silence. The house began to crumble again, but this time for Real. Evelyn and Jonas escaped just in time. The land where Elder Glen stood is now a field of wildflowers and silence. But if you walk there at night and look into any reflective surface, you might still see Clara, smiling softly, watching, guarding the forgotten room. It had been 2 months since Clara Bennett had vanished inside the forgotten room, sacrificing herself to stop the spread of its ancient curse. The mansion had crumbled once again, this time completely, leaving only ashes and twisted stone. The world moved on, but Evelyn, the psychic, never forgot. She was tormented by dreams every night. In them, Clara stood behind a mirror, silently watching, her hand pressed to the glass. Her eyes were sad and pleading. One evening, Evelyn visited Clara's old apartment to gather her remaining research. As she sifted through notes and journals, she found a black envelope, sealed with wax. It had her name on it. Inside was a letter, written by Clara before her return to Elder Glen. "If you're reading this, Evelyn, I didn't survive. But I don't want you to grieve. I chose this. I understood that the room was never a place, it was a prison, and someone had to guard the door from within. But here's the truth I never told you. The forgotten room wasn't created by ghosts. It was built by someone or something. I saw it, in a vision before I entered. A creature with no face, cloaked in shadows, surrounded by mirrors. It feeds on memory, on sorrow. It calls itself the Watcher. The room is only asleep. It will wake again, unless the source is destroyed. Find the Watcher. Follow the signs. Burn the glass." Evelyn's hands trembled. She knew what she had to do. With the help of Jonas, Evelyn followed Clara's remaining clues across abandoned train stations, into crumbling libraries and ancient caves marked with the same strange runes Clara had found on the room's door. The deeper they went, the more reality blurred. Time bent. Mirrors showed moments that hadn't happened yet. Then one day, in a forgotten monastery in Scotland, hidden beneath a stone altar, they found a chamber of glass. Inside were hundreds of mirrors, all circling a stone throne. On the throne sat a tall, faceless figure, the Watcher. Its skin shimmered like broken light, and its voice was the sound of every whisper ever spoken. "She guards the door well," it said, "but you seek to break the walls." Evelyn stepped forward, holding a flask filled with holy fire. "I came to end this." The Watcher rose. All mirrors in the chamber began to swirl, forming a vortex of trapped souls and flickering lights. Within them, Evelyn saw Clara, her hand reaching out. "Now!" shouted Jonas, hurling the flask into the mirrors. The fire spread instantly, consuming the room in blazing gold light. The Watcher screamed, a sound that shattered reality itself. The mirrors cracked and exploded, releasing a rush of souls that soared toward the sky. In the center of it all, Clara's figure emerged, whole, alive, eyes wide with freedom. She felt the floor, gasping. Evelyn ran to her. "Clara, you're back." Clara looked around, dazed. "It's over. The room, the Watcher, it's gone." The chamber collapsed around them, but the three escaped, this time truly free. Months passed. Clara and Evelyn published a book called Reflections of the Damned, detailing everything. But they left out one thing. That Clara wasn't quite the same anymore. Sometimes she would stand too long in front of mirrors, whispering to something only she could see. And if you look into a mirror at midnight, you might see her reflection watching you, even when you're not looking at her. The forgotten room is gone. But the Watcher, he never needed a room, just a reflection. Clara Bennett was back, alive, breathing and smiling, but not the same. Since her return, Evelyn had noticed small, strange things. Clara would often wake up in the middle of the night, staring at her own reflection. Sometimes her reflection would blink out of sync or smile when Clara didn't. Jonas had even captured a photo where Clara's reflection had black, hollow eyes, though she looked normal in real life. Then one evening, Evelyn found Clara sitting silently in the dark, in front of a mirror. She was whispering something. Evelyn stepped closer and finally heard it. "Set me free, set me free, Clara?" Evelyn asked gently. Clara turned slowly, eyes glowing faintly silver for a split second. Then she blinked, and they were normal again. "I'm fine," she said, "just tired." But Evelyn knew something else had returned with her. Meanwhile, across the world, reports of mirror hauntings began rising again. People were claiming they saw Clara's face in their mirrors, despite never knowing her. Whispers followed them. Some people even went missing, their last known action being a glance into a mirror. Jonas ran tests on Clara's body and found traces of non-human energy, mirror particles, still active inside her. Clara had been freed from the room, but the room had not been freed from her. One day, Evelyn discovered an ancient text from the same monastery where they had fought the Watcher. It spoke of a reflection anchor, a person who returns from a cursed mirror realm, but unknowingly becomes a gateway for that realm to open again. Evelyn gasped. Clara was the anchor. If left unchecked, she would eventually become the room itself, reborn in human form. That night, Evelyn confronted Clara. "You're changing," Evelyn said, "and you know it." Clara looked up, eyes wet, voice trembling. "I hear them every night. The whispers. The Watcher is still inside me, Evelyn. I'm fighting it, but it's winning." Jonas stepped forward. "We need to close the gate inside you. There's one way, but it's dangerous." Clara nodded. "Tell me." They returned to the site of the destroyed mansion, now a wild, empty field. At the stroke of midnight, Evelyn and Jonas began the ritual, a forbidden ceremony from the monastery texts. The goal wasn't to destroy Clara, but to separate her from the cursed part herself. As the ritual began, shadows poured out from Clara's back, taking the form of mirrors hovering in the air. In the center, a twisted version of Clara formed. Same face, but black eyes, and a voice that echoed like glass breaking. "I am the reflection," it said, "and I will not go back." A battle of minds and magic began. Clara collapsed, her soul pulled between light and dark. Evelyn chanted louder. Jonas held a protective circle, and Clara screamed, "I won't be your prison." With a blinding light and the sound of shattering glass across the skies, the reflection screamed one last time and vanished. Clara now teaches supernatural studies at a small university. Mirrors don't scare her anymore, because she knows what's behind them, but she never keeps any in her house, just in case. Because late at night, when the wind is just right, she sometimes hears a familiar lullaby, and somewhere beyond the veil of glass, the forgotten room waits, to be remembered again, 1 year later. Clara's life had returned to normal, or at least, that's what everyone believed. She had started teaching supernatural folklore at a university, living in a small cottage in the countryside. No mirrors, no glass, just quiet. But deep inside, she felt it, a pull, a whisper. One rainy evening, Clara received a package with no sender. Inside it was an old, cracked mirror. On its frame, carved in Latin, Speculum Veritatis, the mirror of truth. The moment she touched it, a jolt of memories rushed back, visions of the watcher, of a reflection, and of something else. A second door. Evelyn. Jonas. We never destroyed the source. We only broke its prison. Clara rushed to Evelyn's place. Clara panicked. It's not over. The watcher was never the source. He was guarding it. Evelyn, shocked. Then what were we fighting? Clara, only a shadow. The true evil is still behind the second door. The room was just its mouth, but the mirror, this one, it's an eye. She placed a mirror on the table. Its surface rippled like water. Suddenly, Evelyn screamed. The mirror was showing her own death, a vision where she was pulled through the glass. Clara grabbed it and covered it with a cloth. Evelyn, Clara, and Jonas traced the origin of the Mirror of Truth to an underground crypt in Prague, known in legends as the Chamber of Secrets Reflected. There they found an ancient inscription. He who holds the mirror sees not what is, but what is buried. They descended into the darkness, lanterns flickering. As they moved deeper, shadows in the mirrors started whispering. One of you is not real. Clara whispers. It's trying to divide us. But then Jonas vanished. In his place stood another Jonas, or so it seemed. His reflection didn't move. Evelyn whispers, "That's not him." Clara smashed the mirror next to Jonas. An illusion shattered. The real Jonas emerged, coughing from a dark corner. They finally reached a black crystal door with thousands of tiny mirrors embedded. Clara stepped forward and placed a mirror of truth into a slot on the door. It opened. Inside was a room made entirely of mirrors. In the center floated a pulsing heart made of obsidian glass. It beat like a living thing. Suddenly, dozens of Clara's reflections stepped out of the mirrors. Each one twisted, corrupted. They all spoke in unison. "You were born from us. You were the mirror's child." Clara screamed, memories flooding back. She wasn't just a victim of the room. She was its origin. A piece of her had always belonged to the mirror world. Evelyn. Clara, we can destroy it, but you may vanish with it. Clara, maybe that's how it always had to end. She looked at her reflection, this time not afraid. Clara, to her darker self, I'm not your prisoner. You are mine. She stabbed the mirror heart with the obsidian dagger Jonas found. The room exploded in light, each mirror shattering, releasing echoes of souls, light, and memories. Everything turned white. Evelyn woke up in Clara's cottage. The mirrors were gone. The sky was clear. But Clara was missing. Only a letter was left. I chose to stay to lock the second door from inside. I am not afraid anymore. The mirror may never lie, but neither does love. Goodbye. And from then on, no mirror ever showed Clara again. But on rare nights, somewhere in the glass, she watches over those she saved.